Come in. Oh,
Hello, Joseph, is it?
hi, Dr. Zapata. Yes, Joe. How are you?
I'm well. What seems to be the problem, Joe?
Well, I'm having difficulty drawing from imagination.
Oh, Joseph, just so you know, that's totally normal. Why don't you tell me a little more about your problem? Is it that you can only draw from imagination if you're completely alone?
Doc, I can't ever draw from imagination.
What about if you're completely relaxed?
When I'm totally relaxed, I can't imagine a thing.
I see. Joseph, it's important to know that even with severe cases like this, there's always hope. I can prescribe an experimental therapy called Form from Imagination.
Form from imagination?
It's early days, but clinical trials are extremely promising. Why don't you try this for 6 months and then check back in with me?
Okay, I'll do whatever it takes. Did you just draw this?
Oh yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. Hey, Doc, do you ever have trouble drawing from imagination?
Oh no.
You wouldn't. I mean, you do this.
That's right.
Wow.
Form from Imagination is an experimental therapy and is not yet approved for use by the FDA. Do not use Form from Imagination if you are already taking any prescriptions for drawing from reference, working site size, or tracing photos you didn't even take. Stop taking Form from Imagination if you experience any of these side effects: loss of interest in your personal projects, megalomaniacal self-confidence, hallucinations, unless they're the kind you're hoping for, drawing better than Steven Zapata, or feelings that purchasing the course was enough and you don't really need to do the exercises. Call your doctor if you have stiff gestures, flat forms, or boring ideas to address a possible life-threatening condition. Full sketchbooks have been reported with Form from Imagination and medicines like it. Other risks include long-term art careers, too many clients, and being worth more than you're charging for. Call your doctor today and ask about Form from Imagination. Hello everyone, my name is Steven Zapata, greatest living draftsman, and I've got a new course out, Design Fundamentals. It's meant to help you understand design on a comprehensive and principled level and show you how to run projects that build skills and contribute to a portfolio. Maybe you want to be a concept artist, an illustrator, a fine artist, or just the most badass hobbyist on your block. Whatever you want to do with art, if you ever want to do anything vaguely original, you need to understand design. You need a process and a mental framework for getting to something new rather than just copying what you've seen before or photos of stuff that already exists. If you do want to improve at design, that process, that mental framework, it does exist. It's based on the principles of design, and I've spent the past year, is it more than a year? Oh my God, this took forever. I've spent the past whatever putting this course together, full of my insights into the elements of art and the principles of design. Across 10 assignments in this course, you will be concepting your own imagined video game. You'll come up with the overall idea, you'll pick a theme, you'll write a treatment, and you'll design assets that give you a chance to practice all these new concepts. And at the end, all of these individual assignments come together into a cohesive final image. When I designed this syllabus, I wanted to make the course I wish I had taken back in my first year of school. And I did. If I was asked to teach Design 1 at Art Center today, I would just play these videos as my lectures, and this is the same cohesive, practical, fun assignment I would make the students do all semester. Also, just like a college course, everyone gets my feedback on all 10 assignments. In the exclusive course community, you can post your work to get feedback from me and your peers, and there's even a video workroom that's always open so you can hang out together while you work. So if you're interested, go to zapatacourses.com/designfundamentals and check it out. And I will see you on the other side of the mystical gateway of design. All right. June 3rd, 2026. You saw the course promos. What the course promos do not say, but that they should say, but that I haven't had time to make them say, but that I will say right now, is that all of my courses are 20% off. So just to help you understand, 20% off, that's a reduction. It's not I'm making it 20% more expensive. The courses are 20% cheaper. And that includes all versions. So it's the feedback versions that are available on my site. So the version of Form for Imagination with feedback. And there's only one version of Design Fundamentals, and that's the version with feedback. There is a non-feedback version of Form for Imagination that you can get over on the Proco website, and it is also 20% off on Proco. And all of these savings, these incredible deals, Lord deliver us from these incredible savings, they are going until July 6th. So quite a long time of sales for you to get your educational goodies for the summer, to keep drawing through that summer heat, to have a patriotic moment on July 4th and say to yourself, you know what? The greatest way I can celebrate the independence of America is to support a small business, to support American individual with American entrepreneurial spirit. And you get the course. You get the course, of course. You get El Curso. What else do I have to say about it? You saw the promos. FFI, DF. They're a blast. They're awesome. They're fun. The students, they suffer from huge improvement. You know, their skills used to make it easy for them to not take it seriously, that they might need to really fit art into their life continuously. And then unfortunately, the courses increase their skills so fast that now they have to suffer with the burden of knowing that they're an artist and that the world needs their art and that people want their art, and that unfortunately maybe they have to find a way to make it their career and stuff like that, because otherwise they're wasting their potential. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. All right, what else is up? Hello to Ood Slayer, to Michael Schlater, to Jojo, to Nobody, to Superker Coyote, to Wixendus, to Xavier Rodriguez, to Engine Can Ude, to Kuklem, to A25G1T3P, to Roundbrush, and of course, to Gene New, who clearly is a well-adjusted individual because they open the chat with, "Hi, Steven. I love you." Thank you. Thank you. Someone with characters that I do not understand says, "Oh my god, wow, I was just watching the stream from yesterday and now I am bestowed with Steven's presence. Let's go." I also want to honor some patrons. I forgot to do it yesterday, and we actually had a lot of people sign up for the Patreon since the last stream, except, not last night's, but the one before that. We had a lot of people sign up. A lot of people decided to put their money where their mouth is and support what we do here, which is, of course, we're the final bastion for true art on the internet. But I want to honor these patrons. I want to thank them for supporting, and I hope they enjoy the exclusives that are on there. I hope they enjoy getting the community in the Discord, hanging out with people. There's been a lot of activity in the streaming and voice room on the Discord lately, led in large part by our boy Cody Lennon, who is a great artist and just regularly pulls 10 to 12-hour days in the voice chat working on his pieces. And there's always just people having fun in there and working together and chatting with each other. I've hopped in there a few times recently and chatted. So I hope you enjoy the Discord. I hope you enjoy the exclusives that are on the Patreon. Lots of old podcasts and Q&As. Not old, but older podcasts and Q&As. And little self-recordings of me musing to myself on my phone, as well as the secret podcast with my good friend, the comic book artist Stephen Green. We have 3 episodes of that Forbidden Takes Are Too Hot podcast on there, And I may have just popped them a text about recording episode 4 this morning. Maybe. But anyway, I hope they all enjoy that. And who are they? Who are the royal they in this case? It's Knife, Talon Gorman, Pond Allen, King of Bautism, Tim Dunford, Will Haydecker, hey Will, Josh, Hussein, and Morgan. Thank you so much to everybody for supporting. I really appreciate it. I don't have time to go too deep into all of the honorifics that each of these people have accrued to their name over the years. But once again, I want to thank Morgan, Hussein, Josh, Will Haydecker, Tim Dunford, King of Bautism, Pond Allen, Talon Gorman, and Knife, who joined and started supporting the Patreon since the last stream. I really appreciate it. My heart goes out to you. Apologies for every bad thing in your life, and with my blessing, it will all be vacated and you will be freed from the burden of suffering for all of those things. Let's see what's up with everybody in chats. Steven Spolder with more glorious art content. That's right, I'm working on my SNEC today. At least, well, actually, I think I'll come back and work on this. This is an access drawing for a picture I'm trying to figure out. I think I'll start by sketching something new just to get the fun sketchy juice out of my body. Oh, the sketchy juice. And then once I hit a wall on that or just decide I'm done with the sketchy, I'll come back to developing this. Schwindo says, gonna be busy, but def coming back to watch this later. Whenever you want, you come back. Love all the vids, the drawing meditations, the deep end, the level of discussion, insight, and artistry you provide. Thank you so much. I know that I do a lot of things around here, but I'm glad you guys appreciate it. And I'm glad that you guys enjoy the high weirdness. Ood Slayer says, first time catching you live. Really like your work and keep inspiring people. I will. I'll do my best. Thank you for the kind words. Discbreaker says, hello, Steven. I too know the heat death of the universe is inevitable, but I will also make it as hard as I can for it to reach that point. That's right. Wherever we go, we will organize atoms and molecules and fight against the heat death of the universe. Is it in vain? Undoubtedly. But go not gently into that good night. Zero Tank says, hey, Steven, if I'm looking for a mentorship, what would be a good way to find it? So some like schools and websites do offer mentorship through them. So like, I don't know if Underpaint Academy, run by Devin Corwin, I don't know if they're currently available, but I remember one time I looked on their website and they had like 2 or 3 teachers who had one-on-one mentorship available through them. It was basically a platform to buy one-on-one sessions with them. So you could look at schools like that. Schools, again, I don't know if any of these currently have mentorship available, but just to name some online platforms that deal with multiple teachers. Underpaint Academy, Concept Design Academy, Brainstorm School. I'm pretty sure all of those have at one point or another been a platform for teachers to make available one-on-one mentorship. That's probably the easiest way because usually they'll take either anyone who can afford it or with an application, usually a pretty permissive application, but there might be some level they just don't want to see that you're like a complete beginner or something like that. They just want to see that you've been doing this for a bit. The next level would be, I think this is a good way to go for a lot of people, is just cold email artists that you wish would be your mentor, right? They're usually people that you want to mentor you. They're usually really awesome. So they're busy because they're really awesome. Hopefully they're getting jobs and work and stuff like that, and they're working hard to keep their art life going. So they often don't have time to blast out there on the internet like, hey, I'm looking for a mentee, or I'll take mentorships or something like that. And maybe they don't really need it financially. But if they were to get a cold email from an artist that looks like they have potential and who says if they're willing to pay, you don't have to be willing to pay, right? You can be looking for free, more heart to heart mentorship, but you need to be transparent about what you're willing to do, right? If you send a cold email that has some emotional intelligence, that has a link to a not overwhelming amount of work that shows great potential, that you're willing to put work forward, and you are transparent in the email, I'm looking for ongoing mentorship, sort of outside of a fee-based structure, or I am willing to pay for your time and I have a budget of something like this, right? If you just include all that information up front, that makes it much easier for a very busy person to send you a response that says, I'm interested in this. If you don't include that information, most of the awesome artists that you wish would mentor you probably are so busy that it's difficult for them to even get to the response email. I wish this wasn't true, but it is the case. It's difficult for them to get to the response email that they have to write that just awkwardly asks, let me see your work and are you willing to pay, right? Like they don't even have the time and like mental bandwidth to break through that awkwardness barrier. Like they don't need it. They just, why do they need that frustration? So if you front load that in your email, it's going to make it much more likely that someone who, that they'll do it, you know? And it's a very thin line with them, right? Like they're willing, it's like if they just know what the situation is, they might be willing to do it. Whereas if they need to send one uncomfortable email, your monthly fee, it's worth it to them to lose your monthly fee to not have to send that uncomfortable email because they can make money other ways. So that's the truth of it. But send those emails. I think it's a good idea. And if none of that stuff works, take classes and just look for classes that have the smallest class size possible. You know, if you can sign up for a class where the teacher only has 5 students, that's gonna feel very similar to one-on-one mentoring, actually. And honestly, I personally find that small group in many ways is often better than one-on-one mentoring, because in a tight group of like 3, 4, 5, you're going to have enough personalized time that you're going to get that same one-on-one level of insight, but then you also get to hear what other people are going through and what the teacher thinks about those other situations. And that is actually hugely valuable, because even if you haven't been in those situations yet, it's likely that on the path, you will enter those situations. Like we all find ourselves in so many of the same situations on the art journey. So it really can save you so much heartache, because you'll hear the teacher doing their other crit for another student. You'll be like, whatever, this doesn't apply to me. 2 years later, you're exactly in the situation that other student was in. And then instead of just being in total darkness, just being completely confused, you'll remember, oh shit, I remember what Steven said to that classmate of mine all those years ago. And then you'll have at least an anchor point to start from for how to solve that problem. So I've seen that happen tons of times with students. You know, they'll follow up with me via email like years after we worked together and tell me that happened. You know, I thank God I heard that thing you said to John or whatever. So for me, I often think very small class size is actually sometimes more useful than even one-on-one mentorship. So yeah, consider that. Just look for very small class size mentorings. It can be hard to find 3, 4, 5, but like I think 10 and under in an individual class is a pretty good number. As long as the class length is long enough, of course. Do you know ArtWad, Stephen? I've never like taken the ArtWad program, but I know Antonio. I've been on a couple calls with him, like on panels and things like that. Charlie says, hello, Stephen. I hope everything's okay. Everything's okay. Nice to see you at a European schedule. Happy to be on the European schedule. All right, I'm going to get another piece of paper and do a little doodling. And then we'll come back to the snick. Typical light line sketching for a start. As usual, the advice I always give for your light sketch is try to let the drawing be beautiful even at this stage. I'm playing Pictionary while you draw this. You know what's crazy? Even though I'm not playing, I'm winning. I'm winning at Pictionary. I'm defeating you and all of your friends at Pictionary. I'd like a slightly harder pencil. Oh, but do I have the energy to go in my drawers? Not too lazy to draw, but certainly too lazy to go in my drawers. Hello, Lak Aslam. Hugo Campos says, Steven, do you have any tips on building patience for longer pieces? I can make sketches and have a blast, but I can't seem to spend more than a week on a single image. Glad to catch you live. Mindfulness. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just fixing my microphone. We all struggle with it, but the solution for being impatient enough to actually quit on a picture that you wish you were finishing, it's like the only thing that is ever actually causing that is believing that the bodily emotion of impatience is something that you must necessarily react to in line with the impulse that it is imprinting into consciousness. And mindfulness will, of course, well, not of course, but mindfulness of the reality of the situation, moment to moment, will allow you to see that you are under no such compulsion, that you are free to experience impatience and not react to it, to not do what it wants. And then you'll just keep drawing. You just keep working on the picture that you want to be working on. And again, I want to be very clear. That's the only thing that would make you stop. Is that clear? Like, the only way, because drawing is probably very important to you and it's probably high on your value structure. You probably like always wish you would finish the pictures that you want to finish, right? Like, and it would mean a lot to you. To you, it would mean that you're fulfilling your identity, that you're not a psychotic who can't do the things that they want to do, that like it, there probably a lot is riding on you being able to do the things that you really fucking care about, right? So the only thing that would make you not be able to do it is through a habitual compulsion reacting to emotional and bodily sensations. That's the only thing that would ever. That's it. That's it. And that's no mere thing. You know, that's no mere thing, you know. Buddhism is considered a cuckoo religion by most, right? And it's like, it is a complicated thing to get your head around, but the solution is to peer through the illusion and to see that you are under no such compulsion. I know my lighting setup is not what it usually is, but I went for a long run this morning. And I didn't drink enough water, so I got a bit of a headache from the long run. And I'm just very sensitive to light right now, so I'm working in low light right now. It just makes it a little easier on the eyes. Once I feel a little better, I'll turn the lights on and redo my lighting situation a bit. Now, which pencil case has my kneaded eraser? Evolution Wise says, hello, Steven. Do you stream on any other platform? No. Currently only YouTube. I've done a couple streams to TikTok. I used to stream to Twitch. But no more. Now only YouTube. I might start, we're going to upgrade the internet around here soon. And when we do that, I might start dual streaming to TikTok as well. Give that a try. I don't know if it'll stick, but I'm thinking about trying it. Hi, Tonga. You recovered your TikTok? No, not the one that got closed. I just made another one. Kind of paper you're using? This is Strathmore 400 series bristle paper smooth. Again, that's Strathmore 400 series bristle paper. It's the smooth surface. And at this point, it is messed up that they won't sponsor me. Come on, guys. How do you get over trying to fill the white circles on the paper? That's an unwinnable war. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's part of the academic process. If you're doing like a cast drawing or you're at an atelier doing a figure drawing, you're supposed to, in most of those teaching paradigms, just spend your downtime, even when you're not with the model, just spend some time poking the grain and smoothing things out. But you don't have to. You don't at all have to. Most people find the texture of the paper quite lovely, or a lot of people do. So you don't really need to. You don't really need to worry about it. How would you approach your drawing on a vellum surface? How would I approach it? I wouldn't. I hate the vellum surface. I don't use it. You don't have to use any materials you don't like. Paper surface is, it's up to your personal taste. Most people are either in one camp or the other. They either hate the smooth or they hate the vellum. The same effects are generally achievable on both. You just need to do slightly different things to get them. Some people say a rougher surface in the long run can hold more graphite and thus get darker, but I personally, in my experience, I don't find that difference to be significant or anything that can't be overcome by just pressing a little harder at certain points in the process. Have you used traditional artisanal papers? I wonder, how does that feel? I've never used like an antique paper. Those do exist. There are still like sheets of paper around that are like hundreds of years old. And some people like to use them because it makes them feel like, oh, I'm drawing on the exact same paper that Eng used. At this point in my life, I've sort of gotten over the idea that the materials matter that much, and indeed, I would expect that modern paper is probably generally better than what amounts to a moldering piece of paper from the 1600s. But some people are into that stuff. It's certainly it's nice for the thematics, even if it doesn't make the drawing better. It's got to be it's got to be a good look artistically, and it may make you more interested in the drawing because, you know, the paper, the medium feels rare, you know, like you can't waste it or something like that. And there are, you know, like Fabriano Artistico has been around for hundreds of years as a company, and they try to make their papers to the standards that they always did. And I've used their papers, sure. And there are certain things you can do to modern papers that make them supposedly a little bit more like what the old artists use. Like you can sort of like brush shellac and rabbit skin glue onto modern papers to try to increase the sizing in the paper, just sort of a binder in the paper, which they say, the nerds say, the traditional papers had more sizing in them, and so were more grippy, more yanking the graphite or the dust out of the chalk. And I've tried those things as well, you know, many years ago in my more exploratory days with things like that. I did try a lot of those things, modifying modern papers to have more of the chemical and structural qualities of traditional papers, specifically Renaissance papers and things like that. And my conclusion after trying that a lot was that being Michelangelo has nothing to do with the paper. That was my conclusion. But sometimes you need to go down that rabbit hole just to assure yourself experientially in your heart that it really isn't about the paper. Do you roll your eyes at seeing someone drawing skulls? Do you find it so repetitive? No, I actually, when I see people who draw the same thing over and over again, if they're happy, I'm jealous. You know, it especially something like a skull. Like skulls resonate with people. They resonate with an audience. Like you don't have to ask yourself what the fuck is going on. Like, what am I doing? Like, does anybody here have any idea what I'm doing? Like, I kind of know what I'm heading towards, but my practice at this point, the images I'm interested in making are so up their own ass. They're like iteration number 18,000 on an esoteric philosophical take on the elements of art and principles of design that nobody understands. So like, until the picture's like finished, fully resolved, nobody can really even relate to it, and then even then they couldn't explain it. They have no idea what the hell I'm getting at, right? And I kind of would have to explain it to them, and that's fine. You know, I'm doing that I've got my own priorities, right? I know who I'm making my work for. A skull has none of those problems, right? A lay person looks at a skull and knows this is talking about death and memento mori, and you know, we're remembering that we're dying, and oh, you know, we're all unified underneath all of the skin and fat that creates our personal image. Like, lay people, the general audience, already has a lot of intuitive gut symbolic understanding of what a skull is. So I'm jealous. I am jealous of someone who is happy and content. And I mean, they have to be really happy. If they're unhappy, I'm not jealous, right? But I am envious of a happy person who feels content with just doing skulls over and over again. It's like, it's making them happy. It's a relatable symbol. They're probably building a good brand, right? And they're not, you know, basically piece to piece, I annihilate my brand because I just give people no handholds of continuity to understand what the hell I'm up to. It's like other artists can sort of track what I'm up to, but you know, other artists are not most of the audience, you know? And you don't build really and you don't really build an art career off of talking to other artists. You know, the community of other artists is generally not big enough to sustain that. You know, You build an art career off of speaking to the non-artists of the world, the general population. Hold on, I'm just grabbing my water. Have you read the lives of artists from Vasari? Little bits, yeah. Mostly Michelangelo, the Michelangelo portion. I finished a few weeks ago The Agony and the Ecstasy, the famous novelized biography of Michelangelo. I loved it. I mean, everything in there is not real, you know, but as crazy things would happen in the book, I would Google, like, did this actually happen to Michelangelo? And I was amazed how many times when I looked that up, the things that I thought for sure, like, this part has to be made up. No, that actually happened. It's pretty amazing. If you're ever feeling down on art, reading the biographies of the great artists is a fantastic way to sort of get your thunder back, reconnect with the lineage, want to honor your predecessors. Mr. Steven, you see a few days ago John Blanche passed away. I'm sorry to say that I'm not familiar with who John Blanche is. Though, as in most cases, probably if I saw their art, I would know who they are immediately, and I struggle with remembering people's names. I remember art I've seen, no problem, but people's names I struggle with. Whoever they are, rest in peace. Back to the source. Aki, hey Aki. Aki says, hello, what are you working on, Steven? Can you show the page? I don't know, I'm just sketching. There's not much to see on the page yet, but some, I don't know. I had a impulse on my run this morning of like splitting the figure, like sort of going through a portal, but not a traditional portal, more like a abstracted form wave, but just like, I don't know, I had some impulse of here, it splits the figure, the rest emerges, flipped upside down. I don't know. Froggy says he is the Warhammer artist. Yeah, see, I don't actually, a lot of people relate, oftentimes see Warhammer stuff in my work, but I actually am not a Warhammer follower or fan, so I'm afraid I don't know many of the artists from that team. Shame to hear it, though. Hi, Steven, says user. Do you think that pain suffering is necessary to make good art? It's just sometimes when looking at artists, they all seem to go through some emotional turmoil, and I get a feeling that maybe art is only for the tortured souls, and so telling stories, creativity in general should be left to them. I think I have a desire to create, and I do draw, but I also worry that everything I make is mediocre because my life has been quite light on suffering. Sorry if that's too much. I'm just trying to figure out why the hell I want to draw in general. Also have a good stream. I don't think suffering is necessary. No, at all. I don't think pain and suffering is necessary at all. It probably just appears that way because it seems that going through a great amount of pain and suffering does tend to push people towards making art. So maybe they're sort of statistically overrepresented in the set, but it's just not necessary. It's not essential. So I wouldn't let that get in your way. And I would say that if you do let it get in your way, it's basically a form of self-sabotage. You know, you're kind of trying to make yourself believe that myth so that you don't have to sit and do the work, you know? So don't let that get in your way is what I would say. And if anything, you know, just breathe a huge sigh of relief that you've been so lucky as to avoid a lot of pain and suffering, and enjoy it while it lasts. Lack says, can you still reap the benefits of doing volume to train the muscle memory as long as you are aware of the end goal, good design drawn clearly? I'm lost, Lack. What do you mean? Can you still reap the benefits of doing volume to train the muscle memory as long as you are aware of the end goal? I know design is its own beast, but I also value good draftsmanship, something like Evan Amundsen. I don't understand what you're saying. I feel like I'm missing what the problem is. Like, obviously, you're going to reap benefits if you're doing volume and you're aware of an end goal and you're doing good design drawn clearly, as opposed to what? I think I'm missing, like, the counterfactual. Like, what's the part that you think, oh, maybe I won't reap benefits if I do this, you know? Seraphin Dunaway says, can you expand on what you said earlier? Artists don't build a career talking to other artists. They build a career by talking to non-artists. That seemed like a deep thought. Yeah, and when I say that, I do mean like a career, like something that makes you money. It's just undeniable that for the most part, that is built speaking to non-artists because It's hard to make money as an artist. You know, there's a lot of downward pressure on rates. Most people don't want to pay you. Full-time jobs doing it sort of as an employee are vanishingly rare and extremely coveted and guarded. So if you limit the potential income pool to other artists, there's just not enough. There's really not enough artists out there, and also artists tend not to have a lot of money because of what I just said, because there's downward pressure and all of that. So it's very difficult to build a career artist to artist, you know, very, very difficult. You need to speak to non-artists, to just the general population. And as you know, if, let's say you have a full-time job doing concept art for video games, right? Are you speaking to other artists there? No, you work with other artists, but all of you are making your money because this company is going to market your work to a general population. As they're going to hope to hit 99% of people are non-artists, right? Because just if you market to artists, it's just not a big enough market. So, that's what I mean. You've got to, the economy of scale for having an art career depends on speaking to a general population. Lax says, you previously said that you'd rather have your students do one perfect sphere than doing volume. I've spent like 130 hours on a single project, like one character. Shouldn't I have done like 5 in that time span? I honestly don't know. I'm still trying out everything. I don't think there's anything wrong with spending 130 hours on a single project. I think it'll help. In my personal experience as a teacher, the people who can buckle down and spend huge amounts of time like that on one thing, they tend to improve faster generally. Not as a generalization. I don't want to freak anyone out of their generalization, but the students who that stick in my head as fuck, they got really good really fast. Almost all of them did that. They mounted the patience and the dedication to early on grind through real finish, 50 hours on a piece, 100 hours on a piece, and push pieces that they didn't trust and that they were insecure about and that they didn't think were perfect all the way to the end, as far as they could get them. And to me, that just makes perfect sense, because there's things to learn at every stage of completion. And these days, most artists don't spend any time, basically, in the last 50% of a picture. They stop before they get there, when they're trailing and I'm like this. I'm trailing thousands of incomplete things, right? But I at one point realized that this was totally unsatisfactory, and I needed to find a way to buckle down. And that was very difficult for me because it doesn't come naturally to my temperament. It took years and a lot of killing sacred cows and breaking the rules and trusting myself to find the way for me to spend 100 hours on a picture. But it was the pictures that I spent 100 hours, 200 hours on that they caught, without a doubt, they caused the biggest leaps in my ability, without a doubt. And there's just so many reasons for that. It makes you, going that far into the finish makes you way better in the sketching phase, because now you actually know what your sketches mean. You actually know, if I put that line down at this point, that's going to have this implication at hour 98. You know, like it's going to put me in this struggle in the end game. And if you've never spent any time in the end game, you just don't know that. So you put down lines and you're like, fucking, I don't know. You know, I have no idea what implication that has for my process. And that's a really hard thing to be saddled with, you know? It just causes a lot of insecurity and just confusion and neutrality about things, you know? Do you think small talk should be illegal? No. No, 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 no. Dog one. Sorry, I was making sure both dogs were inside. Boxer Wing says, Steven, I wonder if I can get your advice, please. I know my art doesn't have broad appeal, but I do want to make money from my art. Should I just make more appealing stuff? I mean, you're in a tough situation with that. You really need to, I think you really need to meditate on that and ask yourself, because you can want fucking whatever, right? Wanting is cheap. That doesn't mean, you know, the cosmos is under any obligation to give it to you. You can, of course, make a lot of money doing stuff that doesn't have broad appeal, but you're gonna have to work your fucking dick off. I mean, it has to fall off, or you're not working hard enough. You know, you gotta pick it up from the ground like a limp sea cucumber and keep it in the fridge from now on. That's how you know you're working hard enough to make that work. You're going against the current of everything. You're going against the current of the economy, of how markets work. It's like, it'll be very difficult, you know? And if you figure out how to do it, send me an email and teach your boy Stevie how to do it. I'm gonna turn that light on now. Hold on here while I just adjust my setup. I don't know why, but my light looks like very warm to me today. Like, it does look warm in camera right now, but that's from white balance. I mean, to me, with my eyes, with my human eyes, it looks warm. I guess that's tough. Hold on, gotta read this. Sorry, 1 second, just responding to my wife about something. Sorry, just coordinating. What was I doing? Right. And just white balance here. The Tonga Mandabi says, do you deflect small talk or do you endure it? Do I deflect small talk or endure it? I enjoy it. Do I deflect small talk? I don't have any problem with small talk. That's just, you know, that's just another life reaching out through the yawning chasm of experience. Come on, man. Someone just making small talk with you, just be present. Just be there with them. Think about what it's like for them, you know? Put yourself in their shoes. You know, they're doing small talk for a reason. Ain't you ever introspected? You know? Why do you start running your mouth? You know, social cue. Maybe a little bit of discomfort with quiet. So you just want to fill the air. It's like, we've all done that. We've all experienced that. They're just doing that. It's a big deal. You know, yeah, the weather is nice. Yeah, I guess it was very hot last week. Yeah, I suppose split brain experiments do call into question our common sense notion of free will. Yeah, I guess none of us are sure where our thoughts come from or even who's authoring what we say moment to moment. It certainly betrays a counterintuitive sense of what the unconscious is up to. And no, I didn't see that movie had been added to Netflix, no. Raven Will says, Steven, I struggle to finish my drawings. Do you have any advice for sticking with something until it's done? My usual advice. 1, mindfulness. If you really want to finish the drawing, the only reason that you get up and don't do it is because there is a bodily sensation and a mental signature of impatience or discomfort that for some reason you believe that you must react to. You just have a habitual, built up habit that says when I feel impatient and I get that tingly feeling down my spine and I get those creepy crawlies on my skin, when I feel those things, which are just sensations, right? I get up and leave. And the truth is that you don't have to. You can just feel those things and keep drawing. And mindfulness will allow you to do that. You know, it's if you are just aware that those things are arising, that those are the signature for impatience, and if you are aware, mindful, as the volitional impulse to get up and leave arises, it's actually quite easy to not fucking do it. The problem is when you're not mindful, when you're just along for the ride and you're just stimulus, response, stimulus, not even response, stimulus, reaction, stimulus, reaction, stimulus, reaction. You would prefer a response over a reaction, the response being, I'm just going to keep sitting here in spite of these feelings. And it's not gritty. Mindfulness makes it not gritty. It's not something that you have to suffer through. It's not some David Goggins discipline thing. Mindfulness just dissolves it. It's just obvious in those moments that you don't have to live your life based off of a prickle on your skin, And for a lot of us, that's all discomfort amounts to, just a prickle on the skin of varying intensities. And I'll admit sometimes it's extremely intense, but, if you've ever meditated, the meditators out there, you get it. It's like a prickle in your skin is not, it's not more overwhelming than fucking knee pain when you're meditating. Like, if you've meditated for any significant amount of time, you've discovered that knee pain can, your brain will overreact to it as if you were just in a fucking car accident, right? As it could be hugely overwhelming if you're a non-flexible Westerner, right? But you cannot react for however long it takes for that thing that felt like a car accident to just from one moment to the next. It may take an hour, it might take 2 hours. Suddenly the body decides like, fine, all right, you got me, and it just turns it off, and it's like it was never there. Or indeed, if you're doing a bit more advanced meditative practice, you can turn that knee pain into just the universe fucking your brains out. Just like orgasmic, delicious juiciness. It's like it transforms from pain into, Saint Teresa-like ecstasy. Like, oh yeah. Anyway, so mindfulness is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is eliminate all the parts of your process that are not fun, right? There's probably sacred cows in your process that somebody just put them there and you never scrutinize them. You believe that you have to do a color thumbnail. You believe that you have to render in this order. You believe that you have to do the line work this way. You believe that you have to do just this huge list of things, right? Every single one of those things may be some individual artist's sacred cow, the most important thing in their practice, but none of it is actually necessary. None of it is actually necessary. Any part of your process that is bumming you the fuck out, there is a creative way to get around it, to delete it, to remove it from your process. And if some artist out there, even when you really expect, says, what the fuck? You can't not do color thumbnails, just go, oh yeah, you're probably right, and ignore them. And just move on. You're number one in art. You're number one. So scrutinize your process and delete all the stuff that isn't joyful, and find a creative way to get to those same ends while keeping the joy in your process. And number 3, the final tip that I always give on this point, don't forget that statistically speaking, the situation is worse than you imagine. You are not living in a novel where you are guaranteed to one day go through a climactic thematic turn and but suddenly just you're guaranteed to become the person that you think you really should become, you know? A lot of us operate under this assumption that I struggle to finish my pieces. I'm this blocked creative. But look, I'm solipsistically, this is the only consciousness I'm going to experience, and there's no guarantee that there's anything after this life, so surely I'm on some kind of dramatic arc, and this will all resolve itself one day, right? One day, it may be when I'm 38, it may be when I'm 48, it may be when I'm 58, I'll have my climax, I'll hit that midpoint, everything will be resolved, and I'll be able to do it all. The situation is worse than you think. Statistically speaking, no, you won't. No, you won't. Statistically speaking, you are not going to pull this off. Statistically speaking, you are going to die on a normal day in the middle of a bunch of mundane plans with a bunch of mundane things left unfinished. And some of those mundane things are going to be all of your secret, lovely, creative projects. Your heart song, the precious bird that has lived in your chest since you were a child. It will die with you. Like so many masses who have gone before you, you will not have released it into the world because of bad luck and lies you told yourself. The situation is worse than you think. You should remember this as often as you can. To release your creativity into the world will be challenging, will be difficult, is a rare thing to achieve. Finish the fucking pieces. Finish them. Get them out in the world if you really care about them. Today's the day. Today is the day. Never forget, you will die on a normal day with mundane plans left unfinished. You will have been planning a birthday party. You will have been speculating about a vacation to some not too expensive place. You will have been thinking about paying your tax estimates in 2 weeks. With those things left undone, you will die on a normal day. Cody Lennon gives $5. Thank you so much, Cody. I love you, bud. You don't need to keep funneling me money. But I appreciate it when you do. But for real, don't feel obligated to do that. Cody says, just right click, real quick. You get the course. You get the course. You get the courses. The truth is that you get the courses. Thank you, Cody. You know I'm going to turn those $5 into piping hot, pure, uncut Colombian coffee for my little baby boy. And soon, he's getting about the age where pretty soon he's going to put down the bottle, and it's going to be time for him to just start drinking coffee out of the sippy cup. It'll just be a side with regular food. He's getting there. He's getting there. When I put that sippy cup full of black, no cream, no milk, nothing, black, boiling hot Colombian coffee, I'll slide that sippy cup towards him. I'll say, that one's from Cody, baby. That one's from Cody. And he'll go, nice, thanks, daddy. And I'll give it a chug. Let it boil its way down his throat. Start vibrating. Glowing gold. Use his power to ascend, etc., etc. Andrew says, thanks for the personal versus impersonal satisfaction in art vid. I'm curious with turning towards impersonal. Is your motivation for drawing in general to be in flow state? And is that enough? Being in flow is interesting to me, but it's not my main motivation. It's a lovely thing. It's sort of a treasure realm that I can return to when life is very difficult, but it's not the crux of the practice for me. How best to put the impersonal aspect? And I really do believe this. I really do. It's going to sound crazy, but I really do. There is no self. There's no me that is the robust gravitational center of my experience. So for me, the art practice, it couldn't possibly be me doing it. There is no me. That leads me to the conclusion that when I analyze, it unfortunately is something much vaster doing the art practice. It's either the entire cosmos or something like the entire lineage of sentient life on Earth. It's something like that. It's one of those two, you know, and both are basically impossibly huge. Given that conclusion, I consider it my personal responsibility. Well, first, let me explain why it would be my responsibility then. This body, these inclinations, this temperament, this personality, to me, basically amounts to an antenna-like structure that forms and shapes something that I cannot explain, that gets shorthanded as the creative impulse, into a particular way. The creative impulse comes out like this because of the capacities of this antenna. It comes out like this because of the particular shaping of the quantum sculpture that is this antenna, this body, this personality, these inclinations, these volitional formations. As it must be utterly unique to some degree, and so I consider it my personal responsibility to keep the portal open and allow whatever the fuck it is, either the entire cosmos or the entire lineage of sentient life on Earth up to this particular physiology, to do its mysterious thing for whatever its purposes are, because it seems above my station to decide to close the portal down and to not allow these transmissions to come through or something like that. And my reasonings, my understanding of my own art practice, in a deep sense, I really understand those as post hoc confabulations. I'm really just looking at my drawings the same way that you're looking at them. I don't feel a robust sense of authorship over them. They are utterly mysterious to me in the end. Just like all of us, though, I have a really good creative capacity to say, oh, that's why I did this. Oh, that's why I did that. Oh, that's what this must mean. But honestly, my interpretations are just as good as yours, right? It's something else making the pictures. So, yeah. My impersonal motivations amount to, I'm not sure what the fuck is going on here, but I'm a particular antenna and it's above my pay grade to close the antenna down. So I maintain the antenna, I feed it good food, I exercise it, I try to not let its social life and all of that crumble around it. I try to infuse it with peace and love and generosity and to help other antennae in the world as much as possible so that the antenna functions well. Those things all seem to important to this antenna, and that allows the transmissions to come through. Sometimes the signal is fuzzy, sometimes the signal is extremely clear. That's about all I could say. And is that enough? It's enough for me. It's enough for me. KN says, hi, Steven. I got burned out from drawing last month and took a 2-week break. I used to draw almost every day, but now it's hard to start again. Any advice on recovering from burnout and getting back? Dude, don't even worry about it. Just keep drawing. A 2-week break is nothing, by the way. I mean, don't start getting... There's no reason to ever be self-conscious about a break, even if it's a year, right? That's a narrative that we construct for ourselves, but... certainly 2 weeks off is, dude, nothing. I often go on, if I go on a 2-week vacation, like abroad, I don't draw the whole time. You know, I'm busy looking at stuff and analyzing things. Maybe I'll do a sketch here and there, but I can't remember the last vacation where I did more than 1 or 2 doodles to take some notes in a museum, you know? It's just not, that's nothing. That's nothing. Don't worry about it. Oh, hey, Andy. What's up, buddy? And he says, did you watch the new God of War Laufey trailer? Any thoughts on the designs of the gods? I saw that when I got off stream last night. I was pretty tired, so I kind of skimmed through it, unfortunately. But I watched it in bits and pieces. I had to go to bed. Any thoughts on the designs of the gods? I think they're cool. I really liked the, I don't know which Egyptian god it was, but I really liked the Egyptian god. This is going to sound self-serving, what I'm about to say. I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm going to compare that Egyptian god design, which I don't know who did it, maybe Della Longfish or something like that. I don't know who was working at the Santa Monica team. I'm going to compare that to some designs I did recently, not to say, oh, look, I'm as good as that. I'm not making comparisons like that. I'm showing you to say, I think there's a similarity in our taste there. And so that would be solid evidence that I really like that design because I tried to make something vaguely-ish pointing to that. But like, where the fuck did I put those? Hold on, I'm looking through my finished art folder. Damn, did I not put those in my... I'm gonna really quickly put this in my finished art folder because I guess for some reason I didn't. Are these the finals? Right, so I did... Go here. I did these designs a few months ago based on some Egyptian motifs, and I was starting to play here with some of the Egyptian motifs. I didn't get all the way there, but like some of the Egyptian motifs sort of actually being like more integrated and organically a part of the creature. I was thinking of that definitely here, and especially on like this one, where there was no real idea in my head that this was like armor. It was like these Egyptian motifs like are this creature. Like, you know, these things don't lay in like armor. It's almost like, you know, these cheek pieces go down into the chest in a way where like it would need to turn the head. It's like not really armor. It's almost like it would be soft if he turned his head. So, you know, this I was imagining is almost like a real beard, you know, made out of like those golden leaf motifs and things like that. So, you know, I had just spent a little bit of time turning stuff like this around and loving on the Egyptian stuff. So I hope that makes you believe me when I say that when I saw that Egyptian god, I was like, this is right up my alley, right up my alley. I thought that Egyptian god was really cool in the trailer. The red god, I'm trying to place it. Was that like that feels like it's more influenced by like a Balinese or a Filipino or a Chinese kind of a thing. Does anyone know what specific god that was? But that felt like it wasn't necessarily Egyptian. Like they were mixing up the gods. But I have a lot of love for that stuff too. I showed it on stream the other day, but this ancient painting of mine, this ghoul, was based on Ragda or Bagda, I forget which one it is, which is a Balinese demon. But when I saw those teeth, those arcing teeth coming from the top of the bottom, I was like, that's That's a Balinese, more Balinese Filipino kind of a thing, I think. But I didn't. I don't think I listened. I don't think I watched the part of the trailer where I don't think I watched a part of the trailer where they say their names. You know which gods they are. So Gabriel Avila Art sends 4,000 COP. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. He says, "Hey Steve, thanks for the live. Just a quick question. Hit me, baby." He says, "Hey Steve, I really appreciate your advice here. If I have 5 months completely free to dedicate to art, I've been saving up and can afford everything I need for this time. How would you recommend I use this period if I want to make a living from art, especially focusing on selling my work?" 5 months selling your work, you know, if you're gonna sell your work, if you're not talking about taking client work, if I'm taking that to mean like you want to sell your artwork, you want to sell pieces, right? Either prints or in a fine art way, sell the originals. You need to find what that is. And that's a very long process. I mean, 5 months is probably an essential foothold on that process. But if I'm honest with you, not the full process. But if you want to sell your work, you need to make things that really resonate with people. And to do that, they generally need to really resonate with you. So you need to begin the introspective process of finding out, who am I? What do I value? What do I really want to make that aligns with my values? And how am I going to put that in front of people and make it resonate with them? It is no small ask. There is no straight path to that. That's a very difficult thing. You know, that's many people's dream, their lifelong dream. So give yourself a lot of grace, give yourself a lot of patience as you look for that. And just know that we all believe in you, baby. It can be done. It can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. But yeah, to me, because a lot of people, that's a very intense process. You do need a lot of time to do it. And a lot of people don't ever give themselves the space to do the weird stuff to find out what that part of the practice is for them. So the fact that you have those 5 months is like an incredible blessing to like just focus down and get weird. You know, when I say get weird, I mean get weird for real. You know, like, I don't care what you have to do. You know, everyone has to go on their own personal journey, but like, go roll around in the leaves outside, read strange books, you know, hypnotize yourself. I'm talking whatever it takes to explore your internality and figure out what is your art? You know, what is your art? What are the dream pictures? You know, what do you really care about? Don't forget that you've got to really give a shit. Art is really hard to do, and it's very hard to do as a career. So you really got to give a shit about your pictures. You've got to think they're just about the coolest fucking thing in the world to motivate you appropriately to do them. So take that task seriously. Armand at Tsunami says, "Yo, I tried to ask yesterday before you ended the stream. Would it be more beneficial to you if I buy your course from your site or Proco's?" That's a perfect time for me to remind everybody that all my courses are on sale for summer, 20% off. 'Tis the season, my friends. It's more beneficial for me if you buy my course on my site. On Proco, I split. Proco takes a commission. On my site, no one takes a commission. I just pay credit card fees and I pay my hosting platform. So more beneficial to me on my site. And very sweet of you to ask. But of course, in the end, do whatever sounds better for you, you know? I want you to be comfortable in your purchase. And then, by the way, once you've found your art, that's absolutely what you should focus on. But once you're confident in it and you love what you're making and it's aligned with you and it energizes you and you're confident in it, then when it's time to put it in front of people, it's just the razzle dazzle, baby. You give them the old razzle dazzle. Give them the old razzle dazzle. Razzle dazzle, Give 'em an act with lots of flash in it, and the reaction will be passionate. Give 'em the old hocus pocus, fool and fracture 'em. How can they see with sequins in their eyes? Though you are stiffer than a girder, they'll let you get away with murder. Razzle dazzle 'em, and they'll never catch wise. It's the way it's always been. That's the way it'll keep on being. Amber Jade says, never thought I'd hear the day Steven sing a Chicago song. Chicago does rock. And that song does rock. Joe Art says, this is the first I got to witness the mystical breaking into song. Shamans must sing. It's essential. It's part of our lineage. You don't have to sing well, but all shamans must be willing to sing. It's an important part of the process. Singing Chicago? Option. Have that option. Is the video game project from your design course suitable for purely traditional artists? You could definitely do it traditional. You just need to make some concessions, you know? Like, you can definitely do all of the asset building traditional. You know, really, you don't need to. There's very little you really need tricky that you need to do. You can just design all the assets traditionally, and then when it's time to do the final board, you just redraw them into the board in their position, and you draw the whole inventory screen. But if you want some of the benefits of doing it digital, you know, when it comes time to put together the final inventory screen, there's nothing keeping you from, let's say you've got your item perfectly drawn on a separate piece of paper, finished. You could scan it, reprint it, cut it out, and then paste it into your original drawing for the inventory screen so that you don't have to redraw it from scratch, right? Like, any kind of creative solution like that is completely fine with me. So there's some degree that you could do some mixing, some digital and traditional mixing there. But I think if you get creative about it, you can find tons of way to get through that process, even while working traditionally. And I'm open to anything. You know, I don't have any. It's not like we're at a college or something like that. I don't have any hard and fast rules. You know, I just want to see you learning. I want to see you having fun, and especially I want to see you, you know, not getting in your own way when it comes to actually getting through the project. You know, because, you know, the course is also a way to rehearse, like sticking with it, you know, and finding a way to finish. So. Roundbrush says, hey, Steven, I feel like the industry no longer has projects I would fit into, so I'm not sure what to do. I've spent a long time developing skills that are not currently wanted. Any advice? That's hard. And I know what you're getting at. You know, I think a lot of us are feeling that way right now, or have felt that way in the past. And this is certainly, you know, with AI bearing down on things, it's certainly a time of reckoning for what we all really want to be doing. I don't have any easy answers for you, unfortunately. You know, I think all of us need to answer these questions through introspection. We need to ask ourselves, you know, well, first off, is what you're saying real, right? Or are you just in a depressive loop and you're trying to like convince yourself that it's true, that there really are no projects out there that you fit into? It's like, is that based on data or is it based on emotions, right? But let's grant that maybe it's based on data. Maybe, you know, really the industry is moving on from whatever kind of work it is you do. Let's introspect and ask ourselves, like, why are we like beating up on ourselves and feeling bad about not being able to get into an industry that we wouldn't want to be in, right? I know that we have this momentum that we were trying to be in it, right? But now the facts as they are, you know, there's always the sunk cost fallacy and all of that, but we don't fit in. Do we really want to shoehorn ourselves in there? You know, wouldn't that just cause more suffering? That's a real possibility as far as I could tell. So we have to take some consolation from that. And then we need to just get back on the horse and say, what can I do where my skills are needed? You know, I resent this though, right? Like, what I'm getting at is like, maybe now, no, you don't fit into the industry. Maybe that means it's time to go make a book and publish it and sell that to people, or any kind of thing, any kind of more entrepreneurial thing, right? Make your own comic, make your own studio, you know, but invent your own genre of things. Who fucking knows how deep the rabbit hole really goes, right? That is probably the way forward for most people in that situation now. I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that lightly. I resent that. I wish that the industries weren't changing like that. I wish the AI wasn't around. I wish that you did just fit in and you could have, it's like, I don't think everybody, it doesn't seem right to me that artists should be expected to be entrepreneurs now all of the time. It's like, does that really fit into the artistic mindset? Not usually, right? That's not the temperament that artists have. And so it hurts me to think how many people are going to bounce off of that if that's the new paradigm for a lot of artists. But unfortunately, the world doesn't listen to me, you know? Though it really should. I'm a smart guy. The world should just do exactly what I say and be the way that I think it should be. Door's open, dog. The dog is lightly scratching at the door, thinking it's closed. It's like, just push. There you go. Do you typically draw without music or other kinds of sounds? I do try to spend a considerable amount of time drawing in silence. But I do listen to stuff. Different things depending on what stage I'm at in the process. I do my best designing in total silence. So I try to be in silence if I'm at the very beginning of something. When I'm rendering and finishing things, listen to music. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, podcasts, things like that. Music, less and less these days. Usually I'm listening to an audiobook. Hold on. I hear trouble. I need to make sure the dogs aren't doing something. Can you guys remind me in 5 minutes to let my dog back in? Fanny has diarrhea and she was scratching at the door to go out. Had to let her go run off into the woods. Gillian Cole with the $5 donation. Thank you so much, Gillian. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Gillian says, what advice would you give someone who wants to draw every day to finish a passion project, but struggles with motivation and discipline? I hope that this doesn't sound too unsatisfactory, right? But this is my honest answer. I talk about this often, and it's often not what people want to hear, right? First off, motivation and discipline are unreliable. Now, people don't want to hear that, and a lot of people understand that motivation is unreliable, but a lot of people don't understand that discipline, when it comes to art, is also unreliable. Because discipline requires like grit, some amount of grittiness. And I don't know if you've ever met an artist, but they're not very gritty. And you can sort of hypnotize yourself into a gritty phase as an artist, and that'll last for maybe a year or something like that, but almost invariably people burn out on it and they lose their ability to discipline and grit their way through stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? A lot of other people might tell you there's something wrong with that. There isn't. Of course there isn't. It's fucking art. You know, you're not a Navy SEAL. You know, your discipline is not the difference between, you know, your friend dying on the battlefield. It's okay in art. Art comes from a different place. It comes from a place of, and this may seem radical to a lot of you out there, but I hope that you feel in your heart that, of course, this must be true. You already know this to be true. Art comes from a place of ease and peace, and most importantly, interest, intrinsic interest in what you are doing. That is the real fuel of the passion. These things together, ease, peace, and interest, will inevitably make art making fun. Fun is all hell. And that is much more reliable than motivation and discipline. Much more reliable. If it is just fun, you'll do it the same way that you do every other thing that you find fun. You just want to keep going back to fun things often and a lot because it's its own reward. You know, it's self-justifying. It's just, I do it because it's fun, right? And we're conditioned to want a different answer in the current world. We really are. But as much as I've looked into it, all the people I've trained, that is the real gold currency in art. You just want to make it fun. So, like I said, this may not be the answer that you want. It may feel unsatisfactory, but it's my honest answer. Don't push against. You're already struggling with motivation and discipline. Don't push against those doors if they don't work for you. Seek fun. And fun will be where your interest really is, right? So whatever interesting aspects there are in your passion project, 3x them, 10x them, add more things. Take a creative session to just say, set this as the goal. Start a timer and say, for 2 hours, I'm going to brainstorm for this passion project. How could I make it even funner? What could I infuse into it to make it even more interesting, right? And just brainstorm, blue sky. You're not committed to any of those ideas, but see if there's some stone you've left unturned that would make it even more interesting and engaging and fun. And that will handle it. Then you will draw every day because you're engaged with it on that higher level. And you'll keep coming back to that over and over and over again. I think that for most artists, motivation and discipline are not the way forward. Like I said, most artists are not gritty. The artistic temperament tends not to be with gritty people. Some people, yeah, are hyper gritty, but generally speaking, I don't think artists are very gritty. They're not very disciplined people. You know, that's not where the artistic impulse comes from, and it tends, I don't know, it just seems to tend not to come from that personality type either. And in our culture, probably a lot of you hearing it are just feeling it, right? You're already feeling it. Just from me saying that, you're getting this gut reaction of like, fuck you, David Goggins. You've got to be a disciplined, gritty person to mean anything in this society. Like, what do you mean I'm not gritty? That inherently means I'm a lesser person or something. Like that. That's all just bullshit that culture gave you. All that stuff is made up. All that stuff is made up. It's literally just cultural conditioning. What if I told you not being gritty and disciplined doesn't make you a worse person? Whoa. Scary, subversive. Oh, the economy will crumble. Capitalism will crumble. What if I told you that there is no inherent moral valence to being a disciplined person? That hurts. Our society really doesn't like to hear that. Our society has a deeply entrenched myth that being disciplined and gritty makes you inherently a more morally valuable person, a gooder person. It's not true. It's just not true. It's a myth. It's a game that we all play with each other, an image that we have instantiated. We find some utility in it. We post it up there to try to create some idealized society, which of course is a very bad idea to try to guide what is ideal in a society. It's not real. It isn't real. And if you don't find yourself to be a naturally gritty and disciplined and motivated person, you're not a bad person because of that. It does not accrue to a valuation of your nature. I hope that makes sense. I am going to let my dog back in. Thank God the weather's good. I can just let her out in the yard to have diarrhea. She had diarrhea over winter. There was so much snow this winter in New York. She had diarrhea over winter. Way too much snow on the ground. She wouldn't go out on her own to do her business. I had to walk her every time. And if I didn't catch it and get her out and walk, just go inside. It's horrible. What's good weather for you? Like 71, 72 degrees. I prefer it a little on the cooler side. A25 says, I feel like my whole worldview was just flipped in 3 minutes. Everything I just said is inherently countercultural. But, we're artists. Fuck the culture. I really believe it. And it puts me at odds, as so many of my viewpoints do, with a lot of my friends and people I respect. A lot of people that I love and respect, people who are like heroes to me, they do not like that idea. It's a bummer for me, to have to sort of have the courage of my convictions there to just put out that there is no moral valence to being a disciplined or gritty person. Sorry. There's just people that I hugely respect and admire and love, and they would want to kill me for saying that. I don't know, their whole existential superstructure relies on that, even more than just the advice they would give people, everything relies on that. They need to they need to have some way to believe that them grinding things out just is the better way to be. And it does, because it's always in opposition to the counterfactual, to not grinding things out. And it's just get it, dog, but it's not objective. It's not It's not, you know, it's not true. You know, it's a cognitive system that we've built for ourselves. But it's not true. An ungritty person right next to you is of the exact same moral quality. At least on that basis. You know, I'm saying that there's no moral absolutes, so you can't really quantify that your grittiness is superior to the counterfactual. So why do it then? Why be gritty? As with so much in art, it's like, only do it because it makes you feel better. If it makes you feel better, do it. If it doesn't make you feel better, fucking stop. Haru says, adding to the question, I want to add to the question about discipline. Ignoring the moral aspect, what if working every day on my project in a disciplined way is the only way to get it done, which is the main goal? Why would every day be the only way to get it done? Why would that be? Why can't it be you extend the timeline, you do it every other day? Every 3 days? Once a week? Once a month? Why? Like, what is making you believe it has to be every day? Why can't there be days of rest? Why can't there be days pursuing your other interests? Why exactly does it have to be every day? And then whatever your answer is, like, even if you have an answer, like, because I want to be a Japanese mangaka and Japanese mangakas work every day, you really have to inspect, like, if you struggle with discipline and stuff like that, like, and I'm taking the word struggle seriously, why exactly do you want to put yourself in a lifelong position of basically being in an adversarial stance to yourself, right? And I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying you better know what the fuck you're doing. You better be making that decision very consciously, you know? The Magda says, I'm happy, Steve. Drawing took me to places people will never see in their lives. Amen, brother. Amen. Hun Snapper, real nice to see you stream again. Happy to be here. and happy to have you here. I'm going to do some itchy detail work here, so I'm going to zoom in for a bit. Jillian Cole with another $5. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Jillian says, hey, Stephen, do you offer one-on-one mentorships that focus more on the psychological aspects of being an artist rather than just the technical side? I don't right now have one-on-ones open, but all of my mentoring, so when I used to do one-on-ones and my workshops, which are the main way that I do personal mentoring for people these days generally, always there's no avoiding that the psychological aspects are deeply discussed and a main focus. In the workshops, even when both me and the student are like, all right, today we're getting to the technicals. We got a drawing in front of us. We're going to talk about the technicals. Try as we might, 8 times out of 10, both of us veer, it goes right. Because all of the problems in art really are mental, right? Like, I honestly sometimes think like anyone who has listened to art YouTube for a week, like art tutorials for a week, has heard enough to handle them technically for a whole career. They're gonna have to keep rehearing those things because things are bouncing off in one ear, out the other. But I truly believe what people take in a week in a manic burst of consuming art tutorials, there's really only a few key concepts that really cover so much of art. It's like the amount that you take in that burst, if you could actually really listen to everything that you're hearing and remember it, you could just try to enact all those concepts for the rest of your life and it would handle you technically. And everything else is the mental struggle, is the mental confusion, is being lost. So yeah, whenever I do mentoring, it's always that. A lot of people have been interested in one-on-one again. And I am thinking about opening up that again. I don't have any, I can't give you a date or solid plans right now, but just know that interest has been high enough again that I've been thinking of doing that. And I used to do all of the booking myself and things like that when I did one-on-ones years ago, but I think probably this time I would do a more modern method what people do. I'd open up a calendar page, and on that page you could see all of the time slots that I have available for mentoring and the price, and you would just book the call. If I do it, that's probably how I'll do it. So that way it's easy for people to just find a slot that fits for them and lock it in. I think basically, and I think the way I'd run it is, You can only get one to start, and if after you do the first one you want more, then having finished the first call would unlock the option to book others. When I've done this in the past, I usually did like when I did one-on-ones before, I always booked in groups of 4 calls so that we had like a month of working together. Or some people want to do it every other week, so it'd be 2 months of working together, just about. But I think this time I do want to offer just one call to basically do like a flash portfolio review. Even a 2-hour call is, you know, that's pretty short for a real portfolio review. A real portfolio review is pretty involved, but I want to have that available too. Just do one call to do like a flash portfolio review. Even just like a brutally honest, like, you know, give it to me straight, doc, portfolio review. But even in that context, it's inevitable that, yeah, because that's just the kind of guy I am. I am much more interested in the mental stuff than the technical. So I slide into that very easily. Anyway, thanks for the donation, Jillian. I really appreciate it. Armada Tsunami says, would love to hear you and Jeff Watts go on tangents about art and life in a podcast. Both of you are sound minds. Yeah, that would be fun. Maybe someday. I've never crossed paths with Jeff. I don't know. I know of him, of course, but I've crossed paths with a lot of people in the art world at this point, but he's one that I have not crossed paths with yet. I think the last video I saw of his, I haven't watched a ton of his videos, but I think the last one I clicked on, it might have been like Christian Nee interviewing him. I don't know. I don't know if it was on his channel or someone else's channel, but I think I remember him talking about like doing ayahuasca. It'd be fun to do trip reports with Jeff. I haven't done ayahuasca, but I've done other psychedelics, and that'd be a fun thing to do. Maybe I'd have him do ayahuasca and then I'd show him this cosmic serpent and see what he thinks. Steven, thoughts on Bernie Sanders' AI bill? Is it a new one? I haven't seen it. I'll have to look into it. I have unfortunately thought that like various videos I've seen Bernie put out, it does feel a bit like he's leaning into the like we've got to work with them thing to regulate them thing. I don't know. I feel like he's drinking certain parts of the Kool-Aid, and that disappoints me. I had hoped he would have been a little bit more just zealously anti. I worry anytime I see someone being like, you know, this is the future, so we have to X. I just, you know, I'm not convinced yet, brother. Is it the future? Is it? See, I still hold out hope that humans are going to decide that the future is human. Because for now, anything else is a very stupid fucking idea. futures where AIs do everything. Stupid fucking idea. The people who are like, yes, but having AI do everything will get us to transhumanism faster. Is transhumanism a good idea? Stupid fucking idea. I worry about how many people in power are secretly holding a wish to become some sort of Alita Battle Angel cyborg. And that's what they're basing all of their ideas off of. That fucking worries me. It's like I see some people talking, I'm like, oh shit. You really think that if you handle this just right, within your lifetime, you might be able to upload your consciousness to silicone and live forever. You think that'd be you, huh? Okay. Is there something it is like to be a silicone chip imprinted with the exact same sculptural shape as all of my neurons? Is there something it is like to be that? Would you be in Lightbox Expo this year? Yes. My current plan is to go to Lightbox. Goodbye, Charlie. Goodbye, goodbye. Tonga Mondapian says, what's a pro between pencils versus mechanical pencils? And above that, I see, do you have a strong preference between making art in traditional and digital? Traditional is definitely my preference. Definitely my preference. I do a lot of digital because it's great for planning and iterating and sketching. And I also do it for work. But when it comes to like my personal art, I much prefer that to be traditional to digital. It's a much more pleasant experience. And What's a pro between pencils versus mechanical pencils? I mean, they're just very different, you know. The wooden pencil just has much more organic mark. I mean, even in a context like this, actually in a context like this where I'm doing a lot of very tiny hatches, there's very little difference between a pencil and a mechanical pencil. But you know, there's things a traditional pencil can do that a mechanical pencil cannot. So like a really broad edged approach is a really fun way to sketch. So working like this. I mean, that's so fun and lively and easy when done with the traditional pencil. I mean, you basically can't do that with a mechanical pencil, you know? It's like to do this with a quote unquote mechanical pencil, you'd have to be using like a 1.2 millimeter lead in a lead holder, and at that point it just is a traditional pencil. It's not really a mechanical pencil anymore. Yes, that's just really fun. Doing like little tiny sketches like that is really fun. It's a great way to practice figures from imagination, is to just do them very small like this. So that every little inconsistency in the wobble of the pencil implies something really significant on the character. Yeah, that's a fun way to work. Tonga says, I never grabbed a pencil like that. Oh, you got to try it. Well, most people, if they've never grabbed a pencil like that, it's because they don't work big. They've never spent a long time working big. Once you go big, usually you have to go overhand and use a broad stroke, or else you can't quite. It's just infuriating to try to cover that much ground doing a traditional writing grip. It's much faster to overhand and go loose. That's why you see everybody at life drawing, because at life drawing you tend to use a big pad, right? 18 by 24. So that's why you see everybody at life drawing. So many people at life drawing typically are going overhand. Armand at Tsunami says, what's the craziest conspiracy theory you believe? I don't know if I believe, like really am ready to believe any of them, but there's ones that, like, I hear them and I don't have a clear, solid, skeptical answer, and they scare me. It might be true. Mostly alien stuff. UFOs freak me out. Things like that. They always have since I was a kid. Nowadays the UFO thing is a bunch of smaller conspiracy theories all bundled into one. But like, what's a part of it that scares me and that I think I might believe? like if UFOs were real and we had some, I like do understand why the government wouldn't tell us. And there's that particular track within that world where people say that like oh, the government has just flat out had communication with non-human intelligences, and they learned things that they decided would like crumble civilization, which usually people assume to mean, or some people claim within the conspiracy theory that they've explicitly heard from government people, that it's stuff like, you know, all the world religions were invented by the aliens as a mind control program to keep people from freaking out in a world where we're just their, you know, sea monkeys, and or they're using us for some experiment to test something or something like that, and we really don't have a sort of a robust meaning to our existence or something like that, which, you know, it's like, I hear that and I'm like, maybe. I mean, if what is being promised about aliens is real, like that does seem possible that that's what's going on. And I'm not necessarily scared of like the lack of meaning there. Like I already feel there is no robust meaning that you can just hand off from one individual to another in this world. I kind of already feel that. What scares me is like the idea that like it is true that there just definitely are a lot of people out there who are not ready for that shit. And the idea that like a head-on collision with that is just being prevented by the like the mist thin scrim of a few like black site generals just not letting people know is crazy. Like if that was true, it really scares the shit out of me. Like it is very worrying. Talking about Dopium gives 20 MX. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Says, thank you for your dope explanations. God bless you. Thank you, Tonga. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And you know I'm turning it into piping hot, pure, uncut Colombian coffee for the boy. Pure, uncut, extra potent Colombian coffee. I think I saw someone mentioning Colombian coffee for there. Let me see if I can find that. And obviously, Tonga Montapium, when I give that to my boy, I'm going to let them know. This one's from Tonga. It's coming from Tonga. Wow, I had to go way up, but I found it. Zokeet says, Steven, greetings from Colombia. Every time I'm drinking coffee here, all I can hear is your voice saying pure, uncut, scalding hot Colombian coffee. You fucked me up. Happy to help, Zokeet. I hope you're still here. Sorry that I didn't get back to that earlier. I was reading it on a skim and I said I'm going to come back to that, and then I lost my train of thought. Also see Ood Slayer asking, about your courses, I'm between beginner and intermediate in digital art and aspiring to be an illustrator. Which of your courses would best level up my skills for digital illustration? For digital illustration, my gut would say design fundamentals. If you're already beginner and intermediate, if you're between beginner and intermediate, I think design fundamentals is probably is what you need most in that moment. It's a little hard to say for sure without seeing your portfolio, right? But especially if you feel like you can render some stuff and illustrate things to a level where it's understandable to an audience member, then, you know, maybe you don't need form from imagination as much. But just like almost everybody going into intermediate needs to grapple with what the hell are the principles of design, or else they're just going to have they're just not going to have any like mental framework for communicating feelings using anything like a reliable visual paradigm, you know? Dean Stoy says, hey, thanks for the streams. My pleasure. Whoa, BDL MTT Studio says, I work for a coffee concentrate company. My body's 75% coffee now. Oh, damn, that sounds good. Give it to me. Give it to me. Resistance is futile. Give me the coffee. It puts the coffee concentrate in the basket, or else it gets the hose again. Armand Tsunami says, is there a way to join the Discord without signing up for the Patreon? Say if I bought your course. The feedback versions do, yes, they get you into the Discord as well. If you get one of the feedback versions of the course, pinned to the top of the feedback board, the community space where we do the feedback, there's a post pinned to the top that has an invite link to the Discord. But that's just to share and to meet people and just have Discord access. I only do feedback in the feedback community, not on the Discord. I need to have all of the stuff that I need to do feedback on nicely organized and only in one place. I should take this opportunity to state again right now that all of my courses are 20% off. zapatacourses.com for more info. You can find a link in the description as well. Again, that's zapatacourses.com. You will find links to Form for Imagination and to Design Fundamentals. How do Blackwing pencils compare to other types of pencils? They're nice, very soft. Quick put down, but they're not really any different from any other like 6B or 8B out there. Some 6Bs and 8Bs get like a little crumbly. They don't really stay smooth in the put down. That's something Blackwing pencils have going for them, the smoothness. But again, it's, you know, Strathmore 6Bs hold up. I mean Stadler, not Strathmore. Stadler 6Bs hold up well. They don't get crumbly. Faber-Castell 6Bs or even their 14Bs hold up well. They don't get crumbly. Like, there's no quality that's exclusive to the Blackwings. As we often say on here, pencils are more alike than they are different. Even the different hardnesses, really. Like, most of it really comes down to hand pressure. Pencils are more alike than they are different. The bigger difference in what's possible in your drawings comes from the paper. You need to work on very good paper. High quality paper. And the rule of thumb that I usually give out is that good paper should be about a little under $1 a sheet, you know? If you're looking at a pad of paper and it's 15 sheets and it's $15, that's going to be decent paper. Do you use brush packs or only the basic ones? I haven't downloaded a brush pack in a very long time. I did like most of my brush experimentation a decade ago. And like most people, I just have like my core brushes where I don't even remember where the fuck I got them. I got a lot of them from my friend and old roommate, Ahmed Al-Douri. He had very good taste for brushes. I got a bunch of them from people at work at various places. And I just found this core group that I know how to use them. And that's all I use. Unsnapper says, you said that the design course was the best for digital. My plan was to buy your FFI course afterwards. Would the course still be doable for me, even though I mainly draw digital? A bunch of people have done FFI digitally. I would actually say most people wind up doing it traditionally. Even a lot of people who start digital, I think they see other people's work and they see the benefits of working traditional, and I find a lot of people switch. They started digital and they wind up going traditional, which I love. You know, that's hugely gratifying for me. I would think that's got to be pretty rare for drawing courses. Do you have any recommendations for an A3 sketchbook, Stephen? What size is A3 in inches? I don't know the European system. What's A3 in inches? But you know what? I mean, size doesn't really matter. It's what do you want to do, you know? It's, do you just want to do pencil work? If you only want to do pencil work, do you like smooth or rough paper? For my money, for sketchbooks, for smooth paper for pencil, Moleskine has that reputation for a reason. I do think it's the best in a sketchbook. For rough paper, harder call. I'm not sure because I hate rough paper. If you want to do other things, A3 is 12 by 17. That's big. That's big. The only sketchbooks that size that I've ever owned have been a Moleskine and an Aquabee Deluxe. Aquabee Deluxe is mixed media paper. So if you want to do watercolors or markers in your sketchbook, the Aquabee Deluxe might be the way to go. But mixed media paper is rough. It has a lot of texture. It's almost like a thinner cold press watercolor paper. So I personally did not like it for doing pencil work. It took everything else nicely enough, but you know, I used so much pencil that eventually I bounced off that sketchbook because you know, I need the pencil to feel nice on it. I do. Nicholas Diascas, I actually just answered that question right before you came in. How do you know if it's a good paper? Good paper is usually about $1 a sheet. So if you're looking at a pad of paper and it's 15 sheets and the pad costs about $15, it's probably good quality paper. Besides that, it's all preference. It's what medium are you using, and do you like rough or smooth paper? Because people tend to land on one side of the divide or the other. But yeah, you need to, don't work. I always tell people, don't work on cheap paper. It holds you back. It really does hold you back. If you do something nice, you can't finish it. They can't stand up to abuse. You know, they crumble under erasers and things like that. And then if you can't erase and correct things, then you're cutting off like half your possible process, and you're cutting off like the top 20% of your possible finish. Don't work on shitty paper. It's not worth it. I'm basically always drawing on decent paper. I only draw on garbage paper for like diagrams and stuff like that. And some garbage paper, like just like bond paper, that is to say like the paper that you might put in your printer, like cartridge paper, just middle of the road printer paper. That's actually really nice to draw on for certain effects. That used to be my favorite thing to draw on before I grew the fuck up. But it feels very nice, but it's unreliable. You can't finish. You know, you have to do everything perfect in one shot. You know, you can't erase things, you can't noodle on things, and that's a problem. That's a real problem. It is nice and smooth though, like digital smooth. Remember when Wacom made tablets in A sizes? Yeah, I used to have a really big Wacom. They used to make a Wacom tablet that was like, yeah, like A4. I think it was that. It was like 18 by 24 inches. It was huge. I never had that size, but I used one a couple times because they had one at school. They stopped making those, but that I never quite got. It was like, ostensibly it was so that you could do these big hand movements even while working digitally, but I was always like, but one of the benefits of digital is that like instead of doing that, you could just zoom out and you can turn just a little fidget of your fingers into a big gestural stroke like that. I was like, you don't really need the... But I guess maybe they were marketing to, that was in the emerging digital market, so they were probably trying to convert a bunch of people who had only ever worked on paper. So maybe those car designer type folks and stuff like that really wanted something big so that they could just keep doing all the same old moves that they'd been rehearsing for years and years. But yeah, they discontinued those, and I think that makes sense because now most of their market does not have that heavy traditional background where they've got muscle memory like ingrained for big graceful automotive lines and things like that. But that is where it started, basically. Like the first if I remember correctly, the very first drawing tablet was or like basically the first commercially available drawing tablet was a peripheral for a larger system that was specifically for car design. It was like a dedicated like car design computer. I want to say it was made for like Ford or something. I want to say it was called like Ford something, like Ford Paint or something like that. I don't think I'm making this up. I think it was like a digital way to you would take photos of like the clay models or like look at the clay models through a camera, and then you would like paint over them to try to make it look more like what the car might look like in reality, something like that. What paper are you using now? Strathmore 400 series bristle paper smooth. Zero Tank says, I find drawing at lower resolution with a 7-pixel brush feels specifically 7-pixel. Then I make the sketch bigger to paint at a higher resolution. Do you think there's any downside to working like this? No. Jenny Craddock, hello. Jenny says, wow, a Sturvin stream. Long time. Good to see you, Steven. Good to see you too, Jenny. Good to see you too. How about making your own paper? Says Jack fell down. Like shredding the paper you have, blending them and everything. I want to try that someday. That does sound weird. It doesn't sound to me like it would be a great drawing experience. I wouldn't like hitting sort of different working qualities every few inches. You know, you start beating up your paper too much, it'll lose its working qualities, you know. It's the nice ideal surface of a drawing sheet is a delicate thing. Can get ruined by erasing, from the pencil scraping over it too much. You know, you start putting solvents and wet stuff into the paper, it starts diluting the sizing and things like that, which changes its working qualities, changes how it grips the graphite and things like that. You gotta be careful. What's on your mind when drawing in silence? Bow, 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 bow. Bamanami, bamanamo, bamanami espresso, blah 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 blah, banabam, daganami I guess so. Patatam pam, panapam pam, daganami espresso. I can't relate to desperation. My gives a fucks are on vacation. When I get the bumble, when I don't stop talking. Better get this body. Give it to him. Put on again. That's all that's on my mind. That's just about all of it. It's either that or him, the Almighty, hurled headlong, flaming from the ethereal skies, with hideous ruin and combustion, down to bottomless perdition, there to dwell in adamantine chains and penal fire, who durst defy the omnipotent to arms. 9 times the space that measures day and night to mortal men, he with his horrid crew lay vanquished, rolling in the fiery gulf, confounded, though immortal. But his doom reserved him to more wrath, for now the thought both of lost happiness and lasting pain torments him. Round he throws his baleful eyes that witness huge affliction and dismay, mixed with obdurate pride and steadfast hate. Once as far as angels ken, he views the dismal situation, waste and wild, a dungeon horrible, on all sides round, as one great furnace flamed. But from those flames, no light, but rather darkness visible. Just kind of ping-pongs back and forth. Hey, Gorobard. Gorobard says, how's life treating you, boss man? Life's good, baby. Cord says, do you still hate AI? How could someone even have to ask that, I wonder?
Do you still hate AI? Is there some assumption out there that, oh, all artists have come around to AI by now? Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Not all artists. My hate doesn't come easily and it doesn't go easily. Our professor said to embrace AI or else we will get left behind. Yeah, and then Georg says, behind what? Yeah. I agree with Georg. It's like, ask them, like, get left behind from what? They'll just have to be like, from all of the AI illustration jobs, I imagine, are out there. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Maybe the professor you're talking about wasn't teaching you art. I see now that was an assumption on my part. Maybe your professor was teaching you computer science or something like that. It's like, seriously, like, dude, just leave me behind. Just leave me behind. I'm gonna get off the cultural train at this station. I think I see where the train's going, and I'm not 100% sure I want to go there. I think I'll get off at this station. It's not so bad here. Gorbart says, I got a university professor who brags about his graphic design work and it's all unapologetically AI slop. He is also insufferable. How shocking. Yeah. No self-awareness. No self-awareness. And you know what sucks? You can't get through to a person like that. When you got someone who's gonna brag over that, you're not really, there's no hope of convincing them otherwise, you know? All right, I'm gonna stay on for maybe another 10, 15 minutes. So I got a couple little things I gotta do before I go pick up my kid. So I gotta leave myself a little runway for that. But just if there's any last questions or questions I missed and you want to repost, you can throw them out there. I'll noodle on this snake a little more and I'll try to get to as much as I can before I go. And again, I should remind people, all my courses, 20% off over on my site, over on Proco. Go check them out. zapatacourses.com, links to everything. Aga says, hello, Steven. Just want to say thank you for what you do. Thank you. Everyone keep drawing. We fight a spiritual fight for joy and creativity. Love from Poland. Love from New York. And amen. It is true. There's no point of going to art school if they keep pushing AI. It's so stupid, says Cord. I think art schools are in for a tough go right now. I mean, yeah, we seem to be in an enrollment crisis right now. That's what I've heard on the grapevine. Enrollments are way, way down. I mean, I think I'm aware that there's kind of an enrollment crisis at all schools right now. Enrollment in all schools is declining at the moment. Even like I was reading something the other day about enrollment has been going down in like elementary schools. That might just be because of like a lack of reducing birth rate. But I'm specifically hearing, and I don't want to say the places because I don't want to. But I've heard of an enrollment crisis at a couple legendary art schools. They're gonna have a reckoning, I think.
Do you strive to make your art meaningful, or do you just carve your art out of your imagination? I don't strive to make it meaningful. I trust, well, certainly I try to be aware if I'm doing something that I really don't care about. That matters to me. But I don't really strive in the other direction. I instead trust that, given my values and the things that I believe, I trust that if I let the unconscious take control and I get out of my own way, it will have meaning to me. I'm also open to feeling like the picture doesn't really have any great meaning or depth to it while I make it, and then discovering what the picture means to me. And it turns out it meant a lot, like weeks or months later, because that has happened to me several times. So I'm pretty flexible there. Surudizer says, Zapata, sir, how do you advise beginners in studying the fundamentals and trying to find that inner deep personal art? One, you prioritize the inner deep personal art. That's always going to be the most important thing. So that's your number one priority. If in a day you have to pick between one or the other, you do your inner deep personal art. That's my advice to you. Some people would want to fight me over that. You know, get the crisp blades out, Mortal Kombat, shirts off, no pants either. Genitals flapping in the dusty wind. Screaming arena of thousands watching. They're all naked. Their genitals, they're flapping. Right? That's flapping in the wind sounds, by the way. The fuck was I talking about? You do your personal deep art first. That's your priority. If you can only do one or the other, you do the personal deep art. If you have the time to do both, I recommend a 50-50 split. You should start your session. Let's say you have 4 hours to draw in a day. I think it's a good idea to start with 2 hours of doing your deep personal art. That reveals to you what you don't understand. What you then know you don't understand, in the other 2 hours of your session, you study that as a fundamental. So let's say you're trying to do layouts for your deep personal art. You find that you don't have a good enough grasp on perspective to do the layout the way that you want. That gives you a direct applicable way to approach a fundamental. So for the second half of your session, go read up on perspective. Go practice that perspective problem. Hopefully, from researching perspective, watching a video or two, drawing a few grids, it will give you an idea in those 2 hours for, I think that might fix the problem with the thumbnail I was trying to do in the first half of the session. When you get that eureka, do not go back and do the thumbnail. Hit the 2 hour mark. Your 4 hour session is done for the day. Hit the clock. And I do mean hit the clock. Baby, I've got 2. I mean a real stopwatch that you keep on your desk with a big fat button. Don't use your watch. Don't use an app. You need something that you're not going to forget about. A real fucking clock. I've got 2. For different projects, obviously. I don't do that for personal work. It's for commercial work. You know, I'm very diligent about how I track my hours for commercial work, and I work on I tend to work on multiple things at once for clients, so I have separate clocks for the different projects that I work on. Sorry. You end the day, and it leaves you on a win with an idea and the exciting possibility of fixing your creative piece. Go to bed, you wake up the next day, and you know right where to start. And that's a very virtuous cycle. That's what you want. You want to set yourself up so you know the first thing that you're doing at the drawing desk the next day. And that's the general schedule like an ideal schedule that within my pedagogy, that's what I like to advise beginners to do. Obviously, you need to bend things and flex things to your personal temperament, but as much as it's possible, I think that's a good way to do it. It's very hard for people, though. It may sound too simple. It is not simple. Almost nobody can pull it off. Engaging your actual creativity is so challenging for most people, and especially beginners, that
most just backslide into the comfort of drawing 1,000 portraits and never going for their dreams. Hence what Topoiso said. Lately, I'm struggling to make my own art. Whenever I sit down, I just do studies and such. You just built the study habit, you know? I don't know where you got it, but the way that people talk about art online these days, it's very asynchronous. And when you speak asynchronously, that is to say, teacher to a broad audience that they don't see, unless you're very mindful, it forces you into generalities, right? And so you start just giving generalized advice. And generalized advice in art is only so fucking useful. And what it amounts to is this lowest common denominator thing where people just encouraging each other to do these foundational exercises that don't actually connect with their core creativity. And people then start doing that. And it turns out that that's just a quite easy thing to backslide into. It's like an easy dopamine loop for drawing or something like that. It's okay, some guy I don't even fucking know online said it would be pretty badass if I drew 1 million boxes. So I did 10 boxes today. Yay. Wasn't I trying to make like a comic or something? Fuck, I got to do more boxes. It's like you and then you build that habit. And you pray, hope, wish magically that is somehow building the comic making habit, when why would it? And of course it doesn't, right? And then you find yourself in that situation. You've built too deep of a groove for just doing studies. You never did the hard work of figuring out how to engage your own creativity. So to Topoiso, who says, lately I'm struggling to make my own art. It will be a struggle to get to your own art. It's supposed to be hard. It's like you have to figure out who and what you are and what you really care about. And you need to scrape and write and philosophize and find a way to instantiate that in the world of material form. It is not an easy task. We're near the end of the stream here, so this could be a very long discussion, but I did cover some of my advice on these things and to various questions earlier in the stream. You might want to go back and listen to them, but to just shorthand it, it's like the situation is probably worse than you think, and you should take very seriously your need to get your work out there, and don't stop doing the studies. You did enough. You needed to hear from somebody. I'm telling you, you did enough. Do your work now. Do only your work. Sometimes you need to go through a no study period as a medicinal thing to counterbalance, Now studies are forbidden. You will only seek the dream pictures now. Careers are not built on studies, folks. They're built on finished creative pieces. Are you live on Twitch, Steven? No, I don't stream to Twitch anymore. When I'm streaming, I'm only streaming to YouTube. I might start streaming to TikTok simultaneously when I upgrade my internet, but we'll see.
Parv Raven says, funny to hear the box example when the resource called Drawbox specifically advocates for the greater than 50% art rule. Yeah, Drawbox is smart. They're no fools over there. We might ask if, if the medium if the medium matches the message there, it might be, there's definitely a cognitive dissonance from reading to reading that advice on a website that's called drawbox.com, but they're no fools over there. Zero Tank says, if you had a budget of, let's say, $2K to spend in art education, what would you prioritize? Mentorships? Yeah. I would see if you could use that 2K to nab a really high-end, like someone you really respect and want to work with. See if you could use that 2K to nab them for, it depends how high-end you aim, right? But see if you could use that to nab them for a few sessions. That's what I would advise. It's just super valuable. It's super valuable to get that one-on-one. Definitely just know that for really high-end people, there's also just there's no amount of money you could pay them that would make them interested sometimes. But if you show them really good work that has potential, that will get them interested. It's like they're much more, sometimes they're much more interested, differently interested. Like I said, you really can't offer them enough. I've had people email me saying literally name your price, and because they didn't show me their work, I didn't respond. It's like I don't care to that degree. But if instead of messaging me name your price, they sent me a portfolio of amazing work, and along with that amazing work, it said, I'm still experiencing this horrible blockage, and I think you might be able to help me with X. And I felt that I could. I'd want to help them for free, that doesn't mean I could help them for free, but I'd want to, and then if they could pay a fee, then we could really get something going. The work really matters to people on the high end, especially if you're emailing an ultra badass artist, because you probably, the artists that you really respect and are your heroes, have good careers, right? Just because we tend to gravitate towards the higher end of the spectrum. So they're probably not that drawn by money. They're probably making a decent amount of money. They don't feel like they're scraping by, and artists aren't super motivated by money in the first place. So what I'm really saying is, as much as you can, put your best foot forward and slide the best work you can do in front of them. And that can help, right? There's always going to be some who the work is not a big word for them. Even if the work is really, really beginner level, they're still willing to work with you. But a lot of high-end artists, what gets them excited is this person's got potential and I want to get involved. It's undeniable. That's what a lot of artists really like. A25 says, how to remove internal barriers that might be preventing you from being completely vulnerable and sincere in your art. Mindfulness. You just, for stuff like that, meditation, introspection, and mindfulness for me are everything. They do it. It's any internal barrier or blockage. What dissolves it is equanimous attention on it. Equanimous attention defabricates all phenomenon, and an internal barrier is included in that. And it's just, you, with equanimous attention, you look at a cup, it'll defabricate. With equanimous attention, you listen to the sounds that you're hearing, they'll defabricate. With equanimous attention, you look at the sense of self for long enough, it'll defabricate. There's a lot of monks and monasteries around the world doing that right now. An internal barrier, looked at for long enough with equanimous attention, it will defabricate.
All right, I'm staying on for 4 more minutes. Any last questions? Any last questions? Peter Akiki says, "Hi Stephen, what are your thoughts on open relationships versus monogamy?" I've never been in an open relationship, so no thoughts. I would be speaking out of turn on that. Seems to me that's the kind of thing you probably shouldn't talk about unless you've tried it. Had some real experience. So what's good paper versus bad paper? As I've said before, generally it does come down to, like, the best indicator is price. Good paper costs about $1 a sheet. If you're paying that, it's probably good paper that'll hold up to abuse. If you want a more, like, less, like, once you've bought it, if you want to see, how do I know this is good paper? Like, what am I actually trying to get from good paper? If you can erase and erase and erase and erase, and then after doing a lot of erasing, when you draw in the spot that you erased, if it feels like just the same as a spot you didn't erase on, if it just feels like fresh, good surface with the same working qualities, you're on good paper. That's the main thing that we want from good paper. Bad paper, you erase and it pills, smooths out, buffs, and then when you try to go over it again, it has a different working quality from untouched paper. And that is just not a way to make finished drawings. Very, very frustrating. Cheap paper cannot stand up to abuse, you know? And most people need to make corrections in their process, you know? Steven, do you know Michael Hampton? If so, what do you think of his figure drawing methods? Yes, I know who he is. I've never met him or anything. His books were coming out like when I was in his books were coming out when I was in my learning period, but I never went into them because it's not like there was any lack of that kind of method. I think of as being like within a lineage, which is like the analytical figure drawing lineage, which is very strong in like the Los Angeles drawing scene. There's classes taught in the LA scene that are straight up called analytical figure drawing. Kevin Chen, I think, was one of the first people to name the class that. But it's like, it's very of that ilk. It's like a constructionist, illustration focused approach. I think some of the great progenitors of it are like Bern Hogarth, John Watkis, and I think it probably, you know, in its oldest formation is probably like Gottfried Bohms was like one of the first people to put it together. He's older than all those teachers. But yeah, it's like I was so steeped in analytical figure drawing stuff in my LA days that it's like I didn't really feel the pull to Michael Hampton because it was like, you know, I was taking classes with Kevin Chen, you know, I didn't really feel like I needed that from another source at the time. But I can see how the way he put it out there online and in his books, that went to a broader audience outside of the LA scene.
But in general, analytical figure drawing is great. Yeah, it's a fun education. It's a good way to look at things. It's not the end all be all. You don't need to learn figure drawing that way. For hundreds of years, people have learned figure drawing not through that analytical lens. It's sort of like a midway point between like anatomical analysis, because it's not like straight up an anatomy pedagogy. It's more about like groups of anatomical structures understood as basic shapes. So it's like a bridge between anatomy and straight imaginative work. But yeah, people have learned how to do all that stuff without that bridge as well. You can figure it out. Thank you, Tonga, who gives another 20 MX. Sick paper tips essay is a cafe colombiano rico. Thank you, Tonga. I appreciate it. And with that, I do have to leave. I got a couple minutes over time. And I got a couple things done before I ride high. So thank you for hanging out, everybody, while we worked on the SNCC. I will probably stream again tomorrow, actually. I think so. What should be the qualities of a good blending stub? No good qualities. Blending stubs, just get the cheapest one. They're just rolled paper. Then they're all basically the same. They're all just like rolled newsprint, you know. Don't pay up for blending stubs. Just get the penny garbage. My favorite ones were unbranded ones that I found at some art store that were closing down. That were literally, they were my favorite because they were selling them for literally a penny each. So I got like 50 at once, and those are my favorite. They were tiny ones. I'm using big ones these days, but. Goodbye to Nobody. Goodbye to Ferber. Goodbye to Johanassa. Goodbye to Renola Dominguez. Goodbye to Mitchell Jackson. Goodbye to Ferber. Goodbye to Jojo. Goodbye to A25 to Zero Tank to Honda Snapper to Jesus the Comeback. Jesus the Comeback. It's Jesus the Comeback who's saying goodbye, but we say hello, Jesus. We say hello, Jesus. Who else we got here? We got Jack Fell Down. Goodbye to Tonga Mondapia. Thank you for the donos again. Goodbye to Daryl Grand, Arctic Monkey. Kuklem. Dubadu. Kodzakornu. Yundas. Peter Akiki. And of course, who could forget? A25 and Serodizer. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Happy drawing. Don't forget the courses are 20% off for the summer.